Wow. Hello, ladies. Hi, this is Taylor Thompson coming to you live here in the She Network members section, or member training section. And I have my special, beautiful guest. I hope that you got to see her interview that we just did on Tuesday. If you haven't got a chance to meet her, we want you to meet Dr. Sakeisha Hylick. Such a mouthful, such a beautiful. So we shared her story, loved the story, loved the journey. And so she had a lot of different, if you go back and listen to her 5 Ps, you got to go back and listen to that. You got to listen to her ACT, right? Action changes things.
Yes.
She gave some nuggets there on the training on Tuesday. But what today, she's going to be discussing, what to do when things don't go as planned. How do you become a game changer whenever things don't go as we planned? Like, how many times have we've had to change the script in the middle of the play, right?
Absolutely.
You got to learn how to pivot and how to become a game changer in the presence of that. And so I am going to go backstage here, Dr. Hylick, or Sakeisha. I'm going to call you Sakeisha because I think that's beautiful.
Yes.
And I'm gonna give you the platform and let you take off, okay?
Okay.
All right. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, this is such an amazing platform, and thank you to all of the listeners. As Taylor said, we talked a little bit earlier this week, and we talked a lot about the 5 Ps. And today, I wanted to talk a little bit about being a game changer when things don't go as planned. And the reason I feel that's so significant, look at where we are as a country, as a nation, going through or in the midst of a global pandemic. And I'm sure you're wondering, so why is this significant, Sakeisha? Why are you talking about this? We hear about this all the day, every day on the news. It's all over social media. But we had to think about how we as women, how we as entrepreneurs, how that impacts us, because we know in life things don't always go the way we plan. So what we have to do in that instance, we have one of two choices. Now, you can either make the choice to stay as you are, and for some people that just might be perfect. I'm going to stay as I am. I don't want to change. I don't want to grow. And that's perfectly okay. But the other option is to take a chance and try again, meaning go back to the drawing board. For any of you, if you've ever built a house, they always have that set of blueprints, what everything should look like. But the reason for that is because things can happen, things can change. So you have that opportunity before you start building to go back to the drawing board and make changes once you've had the chance to look it over, if that makes sense. So even as an entrepreneur, there are 5 lessons. And I want to go through these with you really quickly about how it impacts us as women, especially when things don't go the way we plan. So point number 1 is going to be, and if you're taking notes, learn to change your perspective. It's very easy for us to get into a funk. Things are not going the way he's planned. My husband didn't take out the garbage. That deal didn't close the way I thought. We can very easily be negative, or we can change our perspective. Now think about it. If any of us are going out to, say, a formal event, chances are as women, we might change that dress, change that outfit, change our hairstyle a couple of times. Oh, this doesn't look right. This doesn't fit right. But then you have someone else that comes along with a different perspective, a friend that says, you know what, girl, you look good in that dress. You're wearing it. And then next thing you know, what happens? You start to shift. You start looking at yourself a little different, recognizing in the mirror that you do have something. You have something of value. You are awesome. And you know what? Maybe that doesn't look as bad as I thought. So we had to learn to shift our perspective. And sometimes it takes someone coming along and encouraging you to see it from a different perspective. And may I challenge you that the same can apply in our businesses as entrepreneur, as women. Sometimes we have to learn to just step outside of that situation by shifting our perspective and recognizing, okay, just because things didn't go as I planned, it doesn't mean that it's not going to come to pass. Do you realize that God has you exactly where he wants you? If you think about this pandemic, how many of us would have been the same that we were this time last year had the pandemic not transpired? Many of us were comfortable, didn't want to step into technology because it wasn't comfortable. I'll be the first one to raise my hand. My husband's a technology guru. So as far as it's concerned, let him handle the technology and I'll handle everything else. But God is saying, I want you to get comfortable being uncomfortable, meaning I understand it was good the way you were doing things, but it's about to get better when you start stepping outside your comfort zone, when you start to shift your perspective. Instead of being upset because stages were shut down and certain business deals didn't transpire, I want you to shift your perspective. That's that opportunity that's now available to you to grow that business the way you said you wanted to. But you came up with every excuse. I have to go to work. I have to take care of the kids. I have to do X, Y, and Z. But now God's saying, look, all of that's removed. You're not working outside the home now. You're working from within your home. The person that you wanted to connect with, guess what? They're no longer traveling all around. Now they're available. So he removed all those excuses. So now it's time to shift our perspective from I can't to maybe I can. You know what? Matter of fact, I can do it. So that's one of the first points as women, as entrepreneurs, is learning to shift that perspective. That same dress that didn't look good on you, but once your friend said, hey girl, you're rocking that dress, and all of a sudden you start to see yourself differently, the same thing applies in your business. Start seeing yourself differently. Start seeing, you know what? I didn't think I could do that. Oh yes, I can do that. Matter of fact, I will do that. I have the time. I'm going to put the excuses on the side. I'm shifting my perspective. I'm making myself a priority. Remember, that's one of those 5 P's that we talked about on Tuesday. Now, the second point I wanted to talk about was just leveraging temporary setbacks to your advantage. That same concept applies here. The pandemic, yes, it was a setback from some businesses. Yes, there were speakers that were waiting to take the stage. They were waiting for those 5-figure checks, 6-figure checks. But guess what? This is an opportunity for you, that amazing entrepreneur, you, that entrepreneur that's been holding back, you that has all these amazing ideas. Here's an opportunity for you to step into those ideas, to bring those business opportunities to come to pass. You know what? Success is not going to just drop into your lap. You're going to have to step outside your comfort zone and go and get it. So that means you're going to have to take that chance and go back to the drawing board. Yeah, maybe this did not work, but guess what? Now with technology, I have the ability to tweak. Maybe it seemed too much because I was working that 9 to 5, but now that I'm at home, now that I don't have to take the kids everywhere, I can dedicate a consistent amount of time to work on my business. So I'm going to leverage this temporary setback and recognize it as an opportunity to take my business to the next level, to make those tweaks, to make those phone calls. And with technology, you can be in multiple places at one time. You can be on a conference call training at one moment. The next moment, you can be speaking on a virtual stage. You can be, and being a part of a virtual summit and gleaning from someone that you saw as a coach or a mentor and even connect with them. So it's time to leverage that temporary setback and turn it to your advantage. And I cannot say enough about that. And that leads me to my third point, just making sure that you're listening to the voice of God in every situation. Now, we talked a lot on Tuesday about what one of my first P's was, like this P over M, priority over majority, meaning that our priorities are going to be different from someone else. You're going to have an entrepreneur to the left and to the right. But just because this worked well for her does not mean you scrap your entire business idea and go and mimic everything she's doing. Learn from, you can see her, celebrate her, and learn some tips and tools from her, but still walk out your calling. What a lot of entrepreneurs get, I'd like to say incorrect, is the fact that we figure that because this person's on social media 3 to 5 times a day, I need to be on social media. I need to be on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Guess what? That may not be your calling. Clubhouse, for those of you on Clubhouse, Recognize your calling and recognize your path. I know sometimes it doesn't make sense. Someone else in the relationship space, it may be to their advantage to be on social media 3 to 5 times a day. With what I'm called to do, I can't do that. And you may not be able to do that, but it's okay. There's this little thing called automation. If that's what you're being led to do, you can automate some of that stuff so it doesn't take away from your family time. It doesn't take away from other things that you have scheduled, and you can achieve that balance. Now, I know we can debate. There's some women that say there's no such thing as balance. I look at it like this. With a scale, there's some things when you put too much on your plate, it tips in one direction, correct? So some things you have to remove from your plate. Some things are going to be a permanent removal. Some things you may have to shuffle to the other side, but you've got to recognize what God is telling you to do in the midst of that situation and being okay with your situation, not mimicking everybody else's. Get your instructions and then celebrate your sister, that your fellow entrepreneur, celebrate her successes. Don't be envious of her. Learn to compliment her. Because as women, we're meant to compliment each other, not compete against one another. There's enough clientele out there for all of us to accomplish our goals. Recognize that as entrepreneurs, as women, I'm not called to help everybody, and that is okay. She may be called to help 10,000 people. She may be called to help 1,000 people. She may be called to help 100. But I guarantee you, if you're walking fully in what you're called to do, the people that you're called to serve, walking in obedience in what God is telling you to do, that's a whole nother level of fulfillment that you will get versus stressing yourself out trying to be a copycat, because you're going to be an amazing. So as Sakeisha, I'm an amazing Sakeisha, but I would be a horrible Tina, a horrible Taylor, because that's not what I'm called to do. But I can connect with an amazing Taylor, an amazing Tina, learn from them, glean from them. Everybody has their own strengths. There's so many things that we can glean from other women within this group. And there are things that we can pour into them as well. Because as women, we pour out and pour out. We pour out in our businesses, in our families, in our friends. We're constantly pouring up. But we've got to recognize when God says it's okay to pull back for this season and let me fill you up. Be refilled so that you're full and you can continue to pour out. Because remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're worn out and given to everybody and not making yourself a priority, you're depleted. And you're not going to show up as the best version of you. So that's why it's so important. So number one, make sure you learn to change your perspective. Number two, learn to leverage temporary setbacks to your advantage. Number three, learn to listen to the voice of God in every situation. And number four, look for opportunities for growth. There are so many opportunities out there now. And my concern, like as women, a lot of times is you get information and you hold on to it. I'm like, you know what? There's enough information out there for this person to be blessed, for this person to be blessed, everyone to be blessed. I mean, it's really important for us to go to the next level, understanding that, sometimes things may happen. And I get it. I could have stayed in my pity party, meaning that, I got sick. I couldn't go back into my 6-figure healthcare job, and I could have gotten stuck there. But I had to look for an opportunity for growth. If I was truly going to be the game changer that I'm called to be, if you're truly going to be the game changer that you're called to be, you are going to look for opportunities for growth in every situation. Because I prayed. And how many of you out there have done it? I prayed, you're like, okay, God, I want to take my business to the next level. I want to do something different. I want different speaking opportunities. But you want to stay where you are. You've got to learn to just look for those opportunities for growth. I prayed to be able to work with couples full time. I prayed to be able to focus more on my giftings and callings. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved being in healthcare. I loved helping my patients, but I knew on the inside there was something more. And I'm sure if you're out there watching, you may have felt that sometimes there's something more for me to do. I'm an amazing wife. I'm an amazing mom, but God calls us each for a purpose, and we have different seasons in our lives. My kids are going to grow up. What am I going to do outside of them? what is my purpose and my calling? So just look for those opportunities to learn and develop who you are as a person. Now, when this pandemic started, they had opportunity upon opportunity for people to get certifications. I think like in hospitality management, I think there's now a fee now about maybe $199. But before, it was free. There was no cost. They were providing opportunities for us to learn and grow. So make sure when you want to learn and grow, be willing to invest in the level in which you want to go. We cannot continue to operate looking for what one of an amazing mentors says all the time. I need people to stop looking for free 99, everything that's free, because sometimes you don't value free. If you haven't invested anything in it, it's, you get to it when you get to it. You follow through if you feel like it. Every little thing that comes up, you're like, maybe later, and you keep putting it off and put it off. But I bet you for that same program, if you had invested some of your money, invested some of your time, you have an accountability partner, you're going to take that growth opportunity more seriously. So even though some experiences may be negative, they may be challenging ones. Yes, it's hurtful when I think you hear friends talking about what they're doing in healthcare, but then I realize God says, hey, that was a season in your life. That wasn't your purpose. That was a season. So I said, okay, it's an opportunity to grow and do what I really want to do. Because when you get to do what you really want to do and what you love to do, it doesn't feel like a job. I'm not stressed out at all. I have that time with my kids. Can I share with you, after 20 years in the healthcare field, the last 2 years have been the most rewarding in my life. I've had an opportunity, despite the health challenges, to spend more time with my children, to see them compete in their taekwondo, to see my daughter get dressed for prom. There are so many nights that I had those tear-soaked pillows because I was always missing things, always sending my husband to muffins from mom because I always had to work. So I had to look for this opportunity for growth. Yes, it costs, something, but look at the reward. And now I'm able to show up as a better me because I'm happier, less frustrating, easier to be around, especially, when we're not walking in our purpose. Sometimes as women, we walk around frustrated, we're snippy, and not always the best person to be around. At least maybe that's just me. I'm raising my hands. Maybe it's just me. But we had to learn when there's time to pursue our opportunities for growth. And my last point is learning when it's time to pivot. This pandemic, that past year, it gave us an opportunity to hit the refresh button in our lives, the refresh button in our businesses, the refresh button in our ministries and our relationships. So whether you're out there and you experience a job loss, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a business, if your family was impacted financially, we all had to learn to pivot. But it's during seasons like this that we have to look for new opportunities. Sometimes your level of calling may be in a direction that's totally opposite in the direction of which you're going, but it's okay. And we just have to be mindful of that. So I just wanted to take this time to go over those 5 quick points and just remember, number 1, learn to change your perspective. Number 2, leverage temporary setbacks to your advantage. Number 3, learn to listen to the voice of God in every situation. 4, look for opportunities for growth. And number 5, look when it's time or learn when it's time to pivot. And I'll leave you with this quote that I read by Marilyn Monroe. Sometimes good things fall apart so greater things can come together. So thank you again, Taylor. And
Wow.
ladies.
Wow. I mean, like, this is such a timely message. And I mean, the things that you were sharing, I mean, this is exactly what happened for Larry and I.
Yeah.
I mean, we had just set up our infrastructure for our business, and a business that we had just launched really in 2019. And
Wow.
and so we were just on the precipice of, getting the momentum started,
Uh-huh.
just and we had our second event in February of 2020.
Wow.
Going to set the pace for our whole calendar and set the pace for our new business model
Wow.
in February. And in
Oh
February,
my goodness.
everything changed. Well, actually in March, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the work that we had done, all the things that we had put together, all the money we had spent,
Mm-hmm.
the infrastructure together, we had to completely scrap.
Wow.
And so it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity for change. It was a huge opportunity for growth. It was a huge opportunity for doing things, taking advantage of technology and rolling. I always call it, learning how to play the hand you've been dealt.
Yes. I
And
love that.
because we can't just say, okay, I don't like these cards. Give me some more cards, right? We've got to
Yeah.
learn how to play the cards we've been dealt,
Mm-hmm.
the hand we've been dealt. And I will tell you, there has been a huge growth
Mm-hmm.
for us personally, because this is not where we thought we would be at all
Mm-hmm.
when we thought we would be there. But at the same time, it looks different than what we had originally envisioned it. So the truth of the matter is, it's probably better position.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to end up better because we were open to, okay, God, like, what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
How is this going to work, right? And so we were open to hear and learning to take that and it. I can't even tell you. I mean, like, God, it's all starting to come and flow and work and move in the manner that we wanted to participate or to do this with, right?
Yeah.
So I love this because this is my life. This is, and I'm sure it's probably a lot of women that are going to be listening and hearing, who walked in these shoes and in these steps over the last year.
Yes. It was challenging, but it's an eye opener because sometimes you're thinking we're limiting ourselves to this one box. And God's saying, look, if you just trust me, I'm going to far exceed your expectations. Just trust me. Use this time as an opportunity for building, for growth, for expansion. And even though it may look like, okay, how am I going to expand when I can't get out and I can't connect with clients, when I can't speak, when I can't do the things I used to do? And God's like, look, there's this thing. He says creativity. It's technology. It's all these opportunities that things we'd cast aside. Now it's like, you know what? It's like a light bulb went off. You know what? I can do this. I can do that. And it's like you step outside your comfort zone, speaking on virtual stages, connecting with people you never would have even had an opportunity to connect with because, you're flying all over the place. Everything's in person, but virtually you can connect with them. And it's like, wow, this is amazing.
So I love what, TJ, she said, sometimes things fall apart for greater things to come together. So,
Yeah.
The Marilyn Monroe, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. This is, I mean, this is so applicable. This is so practical to business, life circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
of a set of skills. And I love the perspective like that. If people would just learn how to use the perspective aspect,
Mm-hmm.
that is a game changer.
It is.
And, because we've used the analogy before, it's the glass half full, half empty. But
Mm-hmm.
really, perspective can change, it has an impact on your belief.
Yes.
Because if you believe the glass is half empty, it will determine the behavior, the perspective you have about moving forward. But if you believe the glass is half full, your perspective is different. And so you've got to be willing to change that film and the projector, as Larry and I talk about so all the time, actually. So this is so good, Sakeisha. Like Dr. Hylick, I'm committing because like you've had to walk through it.
Yes.
You've had to walk through it.
Mm-hmm.
So many people have been able to walk through it, and and get to the other side. And so I encourage everybody is that, you know, whenever you look, I mean, what's going to happen? This is what always happens with me, especially whenever things don't go as planned. Whenever I look in my rearview mirror,
Mm-hmm.
it always, you go, wow, I'm so glad it happened this way. You know, you don't think about it while you're in the journey, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable, that's where the growth is. And people lose sight of that. But whenever you look back and you're like, wow, now you see the blessing, right? You see the reason, oh yeah, you know, and so it's better, right? It's better.
And you know what I like to think about? My husband's a car person. We were talking one time, and he said, when you think about it, the windshield is a massive window versus that rear view mirror. It's a smaller one. So we're supposed to spend less time focusing on that. Yeah.
I literally just had I just did a training. I just did a teaching on that. Is that you know, if you're constantly looking behind you in the rearview mirror, you can't go as fast, right?
Right.
You got to keep your eyes moving forward. You got to keep your eyes moving forward. And so such great lessons. So I just thank you so much for taking out time to be here and share your lessons. TJ, thank you for the comments there. I appreciate that. So it says, when you're in the uncomfortable, that's where the growth is. That's right. That's right. It's so true. I mean, it's like whenever you think about it, the refiner's fire. Whenever you think about a diamond and how a diamond is made, you know, it's a piece of coal that withstood the time of pressure. You know, when you think about olive oil and the pressing and how God uses those analogies in the pressing and the pruning of the vines, that's where the growth is. So many of the analogies, you know, come to light whenever you share this journey. It's so powerful. I love it.
Oh, thank you. It's been an amazing journey. It's one that just learning a lot. And then a lot of times what we have to realize is the things we're going through, it's not always for us. It's for the people we're called to serve. So when you go through that process, you go through that growth process, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have someone come to you. They're going to ask you questions about it. You know, you're going to be able to pour into them. And just imagine, if I had not gone through that, how would I really be able to serve them? How would I really be able to help them? So I had to go from, God, why has this happened to me, to, okay, just what am I learning from this? And then how can I help someone else? So it's challenging because it's not an automatic thought process. You got to be intentional about it, because it's easy to fall into, really, God, why am I going through this? But okay, God, you're going to bring me through it.
It is easy to go, why, God, why? When, God, when? But I always look at it like this, and it's such a great point. You know, typically the journey that we go through, the struggle, you know, the test or the mess becomes the message, the test becomes the testimony. But whenever you are thinking about, you know, being a mentor, you know, if you break it down, it's men or women touring you through the places they've already walked. And if you haven't walked in those shoes, how can you lead somebody through that journey? And so the more, you know, the more that we're crushed and pressed, the more mentoring we can do, the more light we can shed, the more the light paths we can enable to show people the path and be the light for them to walk through, or to walk with, and to be that encourager, to be that edifier, to be that, you know, like, you've got this, you keep going, keep moving, keep walking, you know, you're not in this alone. And so I love that. So I can have these conversations. So I love it. But I just, I really appreciate you, appreciate your wisdom, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope it was a blessing and able to add value. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, ladies, that's it for us here in the She Members section. We're here with Dr. Sakeisha Hylick. Thank you so much, Keisha.
All right.
Ladies, you have a blessed, amazing day, and we will see you next time. Taylor Thompson and Dr. Sakeisha Hylick. Mwah.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies.